Suspect in Sunday's apparent attempted assassination of former President Trump has been officially charged. Ryan Wesley Routh is charged with 2 firearm offenses, facing a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. A detention hearing is set for next Monday. Former Secret Service Deputy Director A.T. Smith joins us now. A.T., thank you for being with us. I just want to start with you. What questions do you want answered when you see what you have seen so far about this incident?
Well, as the FBI's investigation unfolds, there'll be many questions about this individual. You know, I think that unlike the attempt in Butler, this particular individual seems to have quite a social media platform. So the FBI will dig into that very extensively. They obviously will do a lot of interviews to see what friends, family, and so forth thought about him and thought about necessarily his state of mind about things. But I think they're going to be able to piece a good bit together right away on him, just based on some of the things he's engaged in, the war in Ukraine. Obviously, I think some negativity toward the former president. So I think getting those answers first will be of the utmost importance to see maybe what motivated this individual. You know, was he a copycat? Was he just trying to finish the job that didn't get finished in Butler, or did he have his own issues that drove him and you know, made him decide to take this or get involved in this?
Thinking about what happened in Butler, or maybe even not, maybe just evaluating this on its own terms, how do you feel that local law enforcement and the Secret Service reacted in this instance to protect the former president?
They did a very good job. This is the sort of textbook as to how you create a security plan at a golf course almost on a minute's notice. The thing that benefits the Secret Service here is that this was an off-the-record movement. It was not publicly known that he was going to play golf. It wasn't like a public event or a rally where people had a lot of time to plan to come, or obviously a crowd to be there. So that part of it works to the benefit of the Secret Service. And once they're there, and the former president begins his round of golf, then obviously everybody is searched and checked that come in after that. And you've heard him mention how this works. It's sort of as if they create a bubble of 3 or 4 holes on the golf course. There's agents ahead of him. He's obviously playing the holes as he moves along, and then agents behind to make sure that they cover the rear. In this case, the Secret Service said today that all of the assets were there, that were not necessarily there at Butler, to include a drone, I understand, from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. But the agent, particularly the advance agent that saw this individual first and reacted in the way that he did, should be commended. He's the agent who got off 4 or 5 shots toward the individual, and that seemed to change his plan. And obviously, instead of standing there to fight or to try to fulfill this attempt, he decided to run. And then likewise, all of the rest of law enforcement involved in this did a good job. But don't forget, at the end of the day, it was that citizen who was smart enough to see this guy come out and say, that's just not quite right. Got a good description of him, got a good tag number on the car. And it was because of that citizen's involvement that the license plate readers and everything were put into effect up the interstate. And obviously he was stopped in Martin County. So had it been not for the citizen, it could have been a different outcome.
How tricky is it to, you mentioned it was off the record, but is a golf course more tricky than normal to try to protect a protectee? What are the particular challenges for, I mean, it seems like every president plays a whole lot of golf.
Yeah, it is. And it is a tough challenge. As I said, in a perfect world for the Secret Service, the president would never leave, his home. But they want to get out, and whether it's a political rally or something like this, they just have to make it work in terms of putting a security plan in place. And usually with a golf course, they are problematic because you can't usually shut the whole course down. If there's one course that could be shut down completely, it would be this one. But for the most part, even a sitting president that goes out for a round of golf, the entire course is not shut down. It's just the creation of this bubble, as I said, that moves along 3 or 4 holes at a time. Because keep in mind, nobody knew that necessarily he was coming. It wasn't on a public schedule. Therefore, you had other golfers who were there and, already in the middle of their round of golf. If it's a membership related thing, obviously the members want to be able to have their benefits and be able to play. So it's a very tough scenario, and you have to do what these individuals, these agents did, and that's just move along ahead of him and behind him and keep a sharp eye out. They said that there was counter surveillance units there, which should have had the outer perimeter, if you will, covered, or that area beyond the hedge line. I think the FBI investigation will be interesting to see if they're able to give us any more than the fact that that person was there for about 12 hours. But again, back to that citizen who saw him and wherewithal to call, he should really be commended.
Former Secret Service Deputy Director A.T. Smith, thanks so much, A.T.
Thanks, Joe.